Hello and welcome back to the channel. This video is going to be a little bit different from the green oak work that we've been doing recently. I'm renting a house at the minute, and this is the kitchen, but there's no bin, there's no space to put a bin. It's like a little perimeter kitchen, I don't know what you call it, but none of the cupboards have got a bin space. Bin hanging like a carrier bag on one of the handles, it's just not ideal. So what I'm planning to do is just modify this little cupboard here so it turns this opening door into a pull-out bin unit. I'm going to do it on the cheap because it's a rented house and I'm not staying here forever. I've got a plastic bin that's going to make up the actual insert for this unit. I've just got to make almost like a drawer box that's going to sit in there on some drawer slides that will attach to the door, and then the door will pull out like a drawer with a bin inside. So should make a pretty cool little video. Right, in the workshop now, and that's the bin I'm going to be using. So there's the part number if anyone is interested in it. It's got like a couple of handles. And, yeah, wrap your bin liner up over and then pull it down, and the handles drop over the bin liner, which is pretty cool. And then there's a shelf in that cupboard actually. I'm going to use the shelf as the top of the bin, and then the shelf is removable so you can clean the underside of it when you change your bin liner. So that's the theory. I did find in the back of the stores the other day when I was rootling around a couple of these runners. These are the tandem box ones. They're not particularly strong, not as heavy duty as the Moventos, but should be good enough for a rental property bin. These are different to the slides that are normally used in how much offset you allow from the drawer. So I'm going to be using a 15mm thick drawer side, which slots in this piece here. So the drawer side sits in here, 15mm, and these look to be safe, I'm going to say 24mm to the cabinet from the inside of the drawer. So if I'm using a 15mm piece of timber, then that leaves me with 9mm from the edge of the cabinet to the outside of the drawer. So that's on both sides. So my overall width of my drawer needs to be 18mm less than the opening of my cabinet. Right, so let's jump on to SketchUp and I'll quickly sketch this one out. There we go, that is a very simple drawing, but should end up with something that looks like that. So the drawer runners are going to locate on these drawer sides here. There's not going to be a bottom to the drawer as such, so I've got to add couple of side rails in for the runners to actually sit on, which is these rails here. And the back of the drawer is just going to be sat a little bit higher to allow the runners to poke out the back. And I can fix it to the face of the door with a couple of screws here and here. And yeah, it should be a nice little easy job, hopefully. I'm giving myself the afternoon to make this. Let's get started on it then. One of these annoying bits of wood stood up in the corner, just happens to be wide enough to do the top. And we'll make up the front and the back and as well. Then fingers crossed, I can find a bit in here. That bit looks tasty. That should make me two sides if I'm very careful ripping it down. This never happens. Look, that is 560mm. I need 540. I need 15mm sides, and it's 34mm with a bit of a cup in it. Maybe I just have slightly thinner sides. Pretty much the only power tool I've got here in the workshop out of my site kit is my domino, and that was pretty lucky because it's going to be dead handy to quickly get these joints into here. So I've got a little box construction. That bit of wood hasn't held up particularly well. You can go sort of like that piece of wood there. The rough bit of timber can be on the back and in the top of the bin there. It's really not going to bother me at all. This is not a fine piece of work. This is a practical bit of kit that I'm trying to do incredibly quickly and cheaply. even got a sander with me. I'm reduced to my little Bosch I used to carry on the van. Proper DIY today. I think we call it realistic woodworking. Using this gear off Amazon to glue it up with. Bloody impressed with it, to be fair, for the price. Good stuff. I'm using an old drill bit that's just under 5mm. Spread it about in there. Got to be really careful because this being only 15mm thick and a 12mm domino, I don't want to push the sides of these out, so we'll make sure these are set before we start. I almost used pocket hole screws for this one. Almost. The reason I've made this such a tall box is just to give the interaction between the slab of the door, so the face of the door and this drawer, as much chance as possible of staying true to each other rather than wobbling around when you use it. A tiny little bump in the road, some might say a major catastrophe, but the when you space these runners off the width of the cabinet like that, there isn't enough gap between the inside of the runners to fit the bin in. The bin is too big. I hadn't really thought about that, which is a pain. I thought I'd show it. You've got to show your mistakes, haven't you? And I seem to make plenty. Brainstorming. Best thing I think to come up with as a solution is to maybe set these back from the face of the cabinets a few mil. I can create a little router jig that will router them slides in. I only need about 8mm of depth to make this work. So if I router that slide into the cabinet 8mm on each face, at the depth down on this bin where it tapers, the bin will then sit nicely between these slides and it shouldn't affect movement at all, the mechanism, with them recessed in the cabinet. And I can just rebate that one a tiny bit more, 8mm in fact, so that there's still a lip over the edge of these so that you don't see them when they're open. It'll still be a lip down here. You might see a little bit of this plastic, but everything should still work. Yeah, it's just a little bit of a pain. I'm effectively just going to glue this one onto the top of it, like so, and cut the bin out of here. Question now is, have I got my jigsaw with me? No jigsaw. And I've had a second one in the workshop. I've had two actually spares in the workshop, but I've been having a bit of a clean up lately and sold a load of stuff. And then two other things that I sold were the two jigsaws that I've literally not used for 5 years. Necessity is the mother of invention, isn't it? Let's have a go. You know when you've been using a computer too much is when you do something wrong in real life and you try to hit like Command Z or Control Z to undo it. I think this one has seen better days. Don't try this at home. suppose I ought to talk you briefly through dropping a piece of wood onto a blade. Never good practice. Do not do this unless you're very, very confident and you know what's going to happen if something does go wrong. So hands always this side of the blade and stand out of the way of the piece of wood. So if something's going to happen to this bit of wood by catching this blade, it's going to go wha-bang this way, right? So don't stand here where it's going to get you in the gut and you're going to fall into the blade or something. You stand to the side of it and your hands never go past this point of the blade. And for that reason, it's that piece of wood can catch and flip round or flip this way. Generally, it's just going to bind up and throw it out this way. So if your hands are this side of the blade, all that can happen is this bit of wood hit your hand on its way out, which isn't too disastrous. As you're dropping it on to a blade that's running, you want to keep a forward motion, so a strong pressure on your piece of wood, but not like forcing it into it. You don't want anything sudden to happen. So a strong forward pressure and slowly drop it as you move the blade forward. Don't just stationarily drop it into it, because that's going to cause it to bind up and want to throw it forward unless you've got an awful lot of pressure holding it. And I've just got my riving knife there set. It should be below the top of the blade. So yeah, I'm just using the bit behind the cut in line with the riving knife to drop it into it. And once it's sat on the riving knife, it's fairly safe. You just keep pushing forward till it runs down the back of the riving knife and you get to where you want to go. That bit of the cut isn't going to be as deep as this one because it has to slide into it. So when you flip it over, again, hands behind the blade, it's very safe because your blade is going into the cut. I say very safe, it's not very safe. It's safer than the first cut because your blade is going into that cut you've already made, and all you're doing is finishing off the top edge of the cut to the centre of that hole. But don't condone this technique, it's not a good technique to use. But I'd rather people, if they were going to try it, be absolutely as safe as you can be with it. Obviously use all your PPE, but yeah, to keep behind the blade, out the way of the piece of wood. You never want to be behind it on any circular saw. It should always be to the side of it. People that stand here like this and work a circular saw, not good at all. And yeah, like I say, keep the forward motion as you push the wood into the blade. Standing still and dropping it in is encouraging the teeth on the back of the blade to grab hold of the piece of wood and propel it forward. The safest cutting action of a circular saw blade is from sort of here downhill, so the teeth are pushing the wood against the bed rather than these teeth here. If the wood binds up at this position here, you're going to grab the piece of wood from there and throw it all the way around that blade back to here, and obviously that's happening a lot of times per second. So as soon as something binds up at the back, it's just going to accelerate and then keep accelerating the piece of wood until there's no wood left to grab on the top of the blade. Anyway, if we have a quick mop up of this, that should, before I sand it up and get it all to a nice finish, that bin that should fit in there. Beautiful. Get that sanded up and glued on. Right, while the glue dries on that one, I'm just going to make a little jig for doing the routering. Just to mock this one up without actually doing it in the cabinet. Screw these couple of boards on. You've seen these probably before on the channel. Use them for like my curved formers. Incredibly handy, just for setting stuff like this up. So with them runners placed in there, the spacing that they'll be, that bin at this position here, which is about where them runners will sit, does fit, which is nice to see. I've just got to rebate them sides so that they sit over these runners. Let's give it a little bit of a test run. This is where it all goes disastrously wrong. Oh, she looks like she might work. Like the runners want to sit. There we go. Proof of concept is there. Bin fits in. The door can mount there. I think ultimately the higher the better, because the shelf that goes on top of the bin can have the bin bags on it. Problem! Right, because these aren't full extension runners, I foresaw that happening. Put my bin right to the front, so the overhang of the worktop, you can still get your bin out. I wish I'd just bought some bloody decent runners instead of trying to be a recycling person using some I'd already got. But anyway, yeah, so the bin being there is fine. What I didn't equate for was the fact that these clips stick into there and the bottom of the bin is going to foul on the clips. So can't use the quick remove clips on this. I'm just going to have to fix the runners straight to the carcass. So get rid of the clips, screw it straight to the piece of wood. Yeah, another problem, another little solution. For that screw to be fixed into the bottom of there, and you need to just widen that section up so the screw will go into it. Right, so here, let's get this thing fitted. I've glued a little bit of plywood on the bottom of this jig for routing the drawer runners in, and that just gives me a quick reference of the bottom of the cabinet to the correct height, just to save messing about while I was here. Right, this bloody thing better work. Put one right at the back so it stops the shelf from going too far back, because the shelf isn't full depth in the cabinet. Above. Put some sticky tape, so I'm just going to put 4 squares of double-sided foam tape where the screws are. Didn't bring a knife though. Hopefully that'll be enough to hold the door.